So, topic for today.
Dun, dun, dun.
Social media.
Yeah.
Social media. Where did it begin? Where's it going? And what's happening with it? So, I mean, okay, let me kind of cover a few things. There's so many different versions of social media, right? There is like forums, right?
Forums.
Yeah, forums. That's a social media.
Okay.
Form of social media, right? And then there's places like picture sharing. I mean, I would say that's Instagram, Pinterest. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's video sharing, YouTube, and I guess TikTok. But then TikTok kind of opened up this new area of short videos.
Reels.
Reels, yeah. So then Instagram and Facebook, they're like, ooh, this is really addictive. People are looking at this. They're not looking at our videos. So they added, YouTube added shorts, and then Instagram added their shorts, aka Reels. And
Yeah. Shameless plug. Shorts are coming for our channel soon.
I'll take it. So what is the current social media environment doing to our current society? Is it the main factor of the downfall of the Western society, or is just like a 10%, or is it helping a lot?
So I think this is the next progression in something that I might argue is like the fast food problem.
Ooh,
So it's once upon a time, to get entertainment, you would either read a book, maybe you would have to get dressed up, go to a symphony or something. Even if you wanted to build a toy, you might have to whittle some wood. You'd have to work for like 6 or 8 hours to make a toy. And a lot of those toys at that time employed a tremendous amount of your imagination, right? So you had to be very engaged. Food and a lot of these things, I feel like, were kind of the same way, where, if you wanted a tomato, right, you had to like consciously plant the seed or save the seed from a tomato from previous season. So you'd have to save it, preserve the seed, sprout the seed, plant the seed, water it, or hopefully plant it somewhere where it'll get water. And then at some point you have to go harvest it if you want to eat it. So it's all very engaging. And I feel like this whole social media thing is just sort of the next iteration of the instant gratification epidemic. Just everything.
Okay, I'm gonna add to that. So, perfect example of making a toy from wood, right? That toy is gonna take you a long time to make, right? And take you days, maybe a week or two to make, and then you have that toy for a very long time. You pass it down generations, maybe, right? Wasn't that at some point that work for yourself was gratification? Like it's gratifying. It's so rewarding when you do a project like that. Even
Right.
now, if you ever had, I'm sure you had plenty of projects when you work on it and then you complete it, it was like, ah.
So this is the IKEA phenomena. You know why IKEA is so popular, right? They actually have a thing. You can Google the IKEA phenomena. People feel better about a product when it has some input already. So this started back in boxed cake mix, and they were cake mixes that were all complete. You didn't have to do anything, and they weren't really selling.
Interesting.
And so they took they took an ingredient out, namely the protein binder. So you still had to add an egg and maybe some water, whatever, milk. But once they actually took an ingredient or two out, where you had to actually put in a little bit more, then the box cake mix thing really took off. And then further down the line to IKEA, even though their furniture is cheap and, arguably not even very good, besides being just really, really cheap. It's cheap and cheap.
There's some IKEA. It's not too bad.
Right.
I have IKEA, like a table and chairs. I've
Right.
had them forever, and they're pretty good.
But the input of your own, energy, it's like you put it together and you're like,
The input of your own energy.
right.
So, okay, here's then, it aligns with the other topic I want to talk about, office life.
Okay.
So, because when people work in an office environment or just working for, let's say, the man, however you want to look at that, working for an employer, and majority of the people, I'll tell you what, do not like their job. They do not enjoy it. They only work because they have to eat. Okay? So you're spending so much time of your life doing something you don't like. Because, say, back in the day, the example of you said the seeds for the tomatoes, you're preserving those seeds, you're planting them, you're watering them, you're taking care of the ground, you're taking care of the weeds. Same thing with the toy. That takes you a long time to build that toy, to find that piece of wood, to carve it, all right, to make even that knife, to just carve it, those tools, put all that together. Now, and anyways, all at the end of the day, like, you have all this work you've done, and it's for you. It's yours. Right now, you're in an office for 8, 9, 10 hours that you don't want to be there. You don't like it. And now you have something that's in your hand, and it's just instant juice.
A lot of people call a paycheck a drug, but I think what
Paycheck's not a drug. You just have to eat. You have to work. No. It's like, why do you want this job? I want to eat.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of components. One of the things that's really hard with most environments, and there was actually a cool study I heard about a long time ago. I don't remember, been so long I barely remember it, but it was a quality control issue with telephone manufacturing, old style phones with the rotary on the front, and so everybody was just like on an assembly line and just responsible for their part, and they got really sloppy, and it's because nobody really had a vision of the whole thing put together. And I think that's one of the problems with our office environments is we're whether
that little wheel.
Yeah, you're just putting the one screw in the one place every day over and over and over again, and you don't really get to see your contribution to the bigger picture. And I don't know if that's something that should be your own personal responsibility, but where I work, I do a very repetitive task a lot of the day between answering phones and, moving papers between files. However, I'm not oblivious to the help that I'm contributing to a process.
Well, okay, but I'm not talking about your particular environment. I'm talking about the majority, because of all my experience with like office life, office work, there are so many people that just don't want to be there. And that was my same experience when I worked, full time in the office. I didn't want to be there. The only reason I was there is just I have to eat. Anyways, and then back to my phone, back to social media. You hate this portion, and now you have this just instant juice. So, anyways, do you think it's actually rewiring the brain?
100%.
Because not only our generation, because I think we're in a perfect generation where we came from nothing, as in social media, to everything, or to at least where we are right now.
Right.
So we saw this happen. We experienced it. We know every single step. We lived through it. And now you have the younger generation where it's just there. It's like back in our day when we got up and there was, let's say, television. It was just there. Or cars. They were just there, right? And somebody actually in the early 1900s, they went from no cars, and 40 years later, cars are everywhere. So that's kind of what we lived through, or what we're living through right now. So with the younger generation, social media is just there, and they're being so used to it, like an everyday activity.
So I think one of the what you asked, is it rewiring the brain? And I really believe it is. I don't have any science backing this up. I just have like what I'm seeing like anxiety and depression on an all-time high. Everybody is all burnt out all the time, right?
Yep.
And if you just look at some basic markers, people, I don't see them being happier. It's like you'd think if you got all this instant juice, you'd be happy. And I kind of go back a little while, like once upon a time, there was like a midway point, we had some toys on the shelf and you didn't have to ride a horse 100 miles to go see a symphony.
Sure.
You could get in a car and go watch a movie. And I think one of the things that people don't take into consideration is that when something becomes extremely accessible, it loses almost all of its value. So once upon a time, you'd look forward to a Friday night. Maybe you'd go dancing, maybe you'd go see a movie, maybe you'd go out to dinner, whatever. But it was special.
Yeah, absolutely.
And now our entertainment is just like on tap. Any day, anytime.
It's like, you come into your kitchen, it's a beer tap 24/7.
Right. And it's always something different, always something new. It's very quick, and I think one of the other things that it's training the brain not only to get rewired, it's almost like exhausting it. It's like you're constantly giving these little dopamine fixes instead of like getting
After 2 weeks of building or making that doll, you get that dopamine fix. So I would say, because that 2 week span of making something, we evolved doing that. Now what we're doing with the social media instant gratification, instant dopamine hit, our brains were not designed for that. So if we are getting rewired, right? Imagine we are. And because this is a very new thing to human psychology, human evolution, maybe even say. So we don't even know what's going to happen, like with our brains, what it's doing, right? So imagine this, 50 years later, everybody's so used to this. We have some sort of disaster, an EMP, wipes everything out.
right.
Can anybody survive? Will the 90% of the population die out because they don't know how to function?
Possibly. I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily go to say likely. Because as easily as we're rewired for this, I know that. Have you ever watched that show Naked and Afraid?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. They spend 2 weeks naked, starving,
Sure.
hungry, cold, all
Yep.
that stuff. The very next meal they have, it doesn't matter what it is. They're like, oh my God, it was literally
It was
like
the best meal of my
Right.
life. Yeah,
So-
absolutely.
So I really think the flip side is I don't think you need to deprive yourself all that long, or deprive is kind
Well,
of
yeah,
rough,
I
but-
was gonna say.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
but-
don't think that's the.
I think you could, if you were to make a conscious choice and see that this is negatively affecting you, I think you could kind of get back to a normal baseline in, like 30 days.
Interesting thought. Here's the thing. Right now with the social media and most people, mostly I would say younger generation, it's like you said, it's free on tap. It's free and it's on a tap. It's just there. Nobody's getting taught how can I say it, damaging that is.
Well, I mean, I kind of keep dragging this back to fast food, right? We didn't really notice how bad it would all be. And I made
Nobody cares.
Well, no, and I made a very similar argument once upon a time for fast food. It's like, I'm not mad at McDonald's because they just made a product and everybody went and bought it. What I'm frustrated at is that everybody collectively seems to do these things, on large scales. There's individuals who don't. You can go to a natural food store and see the people that don't eat at McDonald's. But, when you're driving down the freeway, 90% of the people around you, if you live in the suburbia, 90% of your neighbors.
McDonald's.
Right. So, I think there's a tendency for humans to gravitate towards this instant gratification thing. And social media has, whether it's the algorithms or whatever, they have really figured out how to.
No, that's same thing with food. No, your food analogy is perfect. On social media, because the food, they figured out the algorithms of what ingredient to put to make it addictive, like hot Takis, right?
Takis?
No, not Takis. The other hot Cheetos. Takis and Cheetos. Yeah, the hot Cheetos. I'm thinking specifically. I think it's rated to be one of the most addictive foods. If you ever look at the ingredient list, I love hot Cheetos.
Really?
I'm addicted to them. I haven't ate them probably in 3 or 4 years. But I remember when eating them, they're super spicy. They hurt you, but you can't stop eating them.
They're crunchy and cheesy and salty and delicious.
Everything. Yeah, exactly. And perfect analogy for Instagram or TikTok.
Right.
I mean, what's not in play? I mean, Facebook's kind of, I guess it's TikTok and Instagram right now. That's kind of the big ones at the moment.
Well, what I think's really hit with social media is, I mean, if you think about, even if you go to McDonald's, like you have to drive, even if you DoorDash some food to your office now, there is some physical thing that you actually have to engage in to do it. It makes a mess, maybe. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're eating, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Social media and the fact that we carry these phones with us everywhere we go, like we never put them down. It's like having a pocket full of snacks, or like
all the time. Oh my God, that's so good. Yeah.
And so what I'm seeing is that they've managed to capitalize on all the seconds of your life that maybe it's kind of gross, but like you're sitting on the toilet. Okay.
I was gonna avoid that, but that crossed my mind many times.
But I'm just saying, you don't take it. Nobody that I know.
I'm not reading the shower. What's it called, the shampoo, the back of the shampoo anymore.
Right. But nobody eats on the toilet.
Okay.
What I'm saying, but people social media on the toilet.
Sure, like you said, they utilize every second of your extra time, or
right,
walking from the bedroom to the kitchen for whatever reason.
Yeah, you can scroll, or those few minutes before bed when you should really just be unwinding. It's like, or
that's the worst. I do that all the time.
All right, and I think the truth of the matter is, I mean, if you want to look at this from like an evolutionary standpoint, the people who succumb to this, they're going to have evolutionary disadvantages. Not to say that there aren't benefits that come from some of these things, because
modern day benefits.
There's learning at an incredible rate.
Sure. Okay.
You could, if you needed to like research a topic or something, Shorts is like a great way to get a tremendous amount of information in a very short amount of time. Retention might not be too great, but you could really, like I argue, you could really do some positive things with a platform like this.
Well, okay, perfect example then. Let's say you were sticking to the shorts, shorts, reels, TikTok, whatever, all the short videos, all the social medias with short videos. And let's say you do nothing but death scroll for a year. Then everything goes out, no power, no electricity, nothing. And then you have a year to live. That year that you learned, do you think it'll benefit you in a year of no electricity?
So that's one, it'll be subjective, and two, it'll be highly dependent on what you studied. If you were spending that whole year, learning Chinese calligraphy, or Bob Ross paintings or something like that,
I would say that person was told you have a year to learn because the next year you will have no electricity. So then you would focus on learning how to survive.
Yeah, no, you could walk away with a huge advantage, because you could take two very unexperienced people,
Sure.
however you want to look at that, suburbia life people, and it's like, okay, you're in a year, you're gonna go to a homestead, and you're going to have to build, farm, everything all on your own. You're going to have to survive.
Yep.
If one person was just left to their own devices while the other person had the access to like a good program that, I think they could really benefit.
No, it would be like your own finger program.
Right.
But I would add to that, the other person would be learning from a book.
It'd be slow.
Yeah, but again, you have a year to learn everything about plants, about building structures, about, let's say, plumbing, irrigation, gardening. What would you be after that year? Who's going to come out better? The person that had that library of books, but he can't take those library. That library's done. Or the person scrolling through social media, learning about survival.
So here's what I would say. My opinion, just totally opinion. If the person who was reading was serious and dedicated, had good discipline, and took it seriously, I would put my money on that person. However, if it were just like my son, that's probably a bad example. Son.
Okay.
Yeah. If you took two identical people that were maybe not already so motivated or not, really had any kind of real world knowledge and experience, then I would put it on the technology kid.
Really?
I would, just because. So I've seen Ivan work. I probably shouldn't say his name. Maybe you have to bleep that out.
Yeah.
I've seen Mr. Smith's kid work. Anyways, and he, like, true story, he was working on their dishwasher. Okay. And a couple of YouTube videos, and
wow, fantastic.
And he got it all put together. So, I think if you took somebody who was like raised on a farm, never seen a light bulb come on, and then you told them to learn on TikTok, it might be as foreign.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It might be as foreign of a concept as taking an illiterate person and telling them all the information you need is in there.
Okay, so then we're kind of going off to left field because we're talking about learning, and you and I are both into learning. That's what we love that stuff.
That's
and
why we got sucked in.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's why. That's kind of like when I'm on scrolling on the death scroll, it has to be something I'm learning. Like it's either technology or something, about the gardening or animals, something I'm learning. I mean, there's a few dog videos that I like that are kind of funny and cute and stuff. Hey, look at this dog. Oh, look at his pillow or whatever. But majority of people are not us, especially the younger generation. They're just using it for entertainment. It's just the tap of entertainment.
I think the problem there lies in this. Like when I first started becoming addicted to TikTok, I was not in there for entertainment, but it was like I would go through for things that I wanted to see, and I would look up things or try to find things. And then, one or two things would pop up, either some kind of like somebody getting hurt or close call scenario. It's like, it'd give you that.
That's entertainment. Yeah, right? Sure.
Or it'd be a girl, right? like, because TikTok's just like loaded with.
I think it was. I don't know if it's anymore because
No, they do all kinds of like literally.
at least not my feed. I don't see it anymore. I know when I installed, because I installed TikTok like maybe 3-4 years ago, and then I uninstalled it for like a year, and then I reinstalled it because I needed to see something on it, and now I'm barely ever using it. But when I do, it's either commercial or a live or some sponsor thing. So it's like out of 4 scrolls I do, there's only one video that.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't see that anymore much. TikTok changed a lot, but that's a different thing.
Well, I still get tons.
Oh.
No, I get like every like third video is.
I'll have to see your feed versus my feed.
Or
we'll
like
have to scroll and
like, have you seen the pause game?
No. That's what I'm saying. I don't get any of that on TikTok because they know me. Like because I scroll through that and stuff. I don't care about it.
So these women are doing this thing. It's called the pause game. And I'm sure just because I said it and your phone is in proximity, you'll catch up.
God.
Yep. So what it is there's like a woman and she's like doing something very, very like simple. She's not really doing anything. She's like holding her phone and she might just be moving back and forth just like I am. And then it'll flash. And it's so fast. It's like one, what do you call that?
Millisecond?
One frame.
One frame.
Out of like, you know, like there's 60
Yeah.
60 frames a second. So like one frame.
Can you can you recognize that frame with your eyes?
It is so hard.
But you can't.
You can recognize that it was there, but you have not enough time.
Sure.
And so the pause game is you pick a cue, whether it's where her hand is placed or you're listening to the background music or whatever, and you try to, because you know there's a little delay on the pause too. So you try to pause and see what she's flashing you. And some of them are lame and some of them are full on porn.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it's the pause game.
Oh.
And
I've seen that, but I didn't know that's what that was about.
right. So
I've seen like people commenting or something about it, and oh wow, that's like over my head.
No, so the whole thing is, you know, that when I am on a social media platform, that whenever I'm looking for something, even if it's like something more in depth, how to fix a car, and I go on YouTube, right? As I start seeing all the suggestions that it pulls up, they put these things in there. So like I'll look up my last one, my recipe for lentil soup, like legitimate, right?
Sure.
So yeah, there's a whole bunch of recipes for lentil soup. Then now it has the block that goes in. There's like video, and then there's a block where it now shows shorts. And mine has things like Rick and Morty, Family Guy, and...
You're talking about TikTok?
No, I'm on YouTube now.
Oh, YouTube. Oh, yeah. So I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So they, it's like, yeah, you might be looking for lentil soup, but just in case you want to click on something fun while you're
yeah.
Okay, and so you eventually
YouTube gets me every time.
But you right. They all get
works.
you.
It works.
They get you one click.
Again, they socially engineered it so good.
Yeah.
It's straight up addictive, just like food. So okay, now we have super addictive food, we have super addictive social media, and we have jobs we hate. And like you said earlier, there's all this unstableness. I don't know if that's a proper term.
Well, you know, it was weird because we started kind of talking about, you know, like the social media and office life, and it's like the effect.
Yeah.
You know what? So I watched our last video. You, like, maybe rewatch it yourself, because you will see this like weird. It was weird to watch us having this conversation.
Oh no! Did you see my one frame? Then is that what you're saying?
No,
I put a one frame.
No, I didn't see your pause game, but I'll check for it.
Don't bother.
And I'll spend hours trying to catch it. No, our conversation didn't have a flow that I'm used to have like seen in past conversations. Our conversation is very choppy. Our thoughts never really got finished.
That's a good point.
And
that's a huge
Yeah.
effect of social media
Right.
at the scrolling, the death scrolling, because we never do finish a thought.
right. So we're sitting here having these conversations, and it's like as soon as you say something, it triggers a thing, and then as
Well,
soon
that's why I'm trying to write it down because well, there's a whole thing about this whole having a conversation with people. I've read plenty of books about it because when somebody's talking, when I'm, let's say, looking at you, you and I are talking, and I start to space out at some point, right? I'm just kind of like spacing out, like I'm still looking at you, but it's like whoop, 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 whoop. Because like the first few words you said, first sentence, I already have a response ready, and I'm waiting for you to finish to tell you that response. I'm not even like, and it's just kind of a natural thing lots of people do unless you consciously practice to, and I've been doing that for like a few years now, where I consciously try to actually focus on what you're saying and finish, like you finish your paragraph, whatever you're saying. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Hold on, I'm just trying to wake you up. Once your paragraph is done, then I need to process that whole paragraph. Because if we don't, I mean, if we do that, we will have a lot of pausing. Like we'll sit each other because you're going to process what I just said.
right.
Right. And if basically you're gonna like pick up right as soon as I'm done, you're picking up because you already have a thought ready. I know you've already had like 10 thoughts because I've been rambling for a while, and now you don't even know where you're at now.
Well, you might be right.
But that's the thing. It's a thing where we're all ready to respond before the person's even done.
And a further, I think, demise into all this, I'm starting to see it's the strangest thing because I'm watching it happen with other people in front of me, and I'm also experiencing it when I talk to people I interact with. It's like I didn't really even say anything. You know what I'm saying? It's the strangest phenomenon. I've watched a couple of these conversations take place in the office environment, and I'm like, did you guys even hear what like they're already so trained on what they're thinking. It's like the other person
Because they're sitting there like mentally doing this.
Right.
Like you're still talking. Why is this not working?
So I see it all the time where people are almost, it's the weirdest thing. It's like they're seeing it or they're hearing it, but not really.
That's what I'm saying. The paragraph that you just said, they only heard the first line, right? And they're like, the whole time you're talking, they're formulating their response or their idea or their thought just on that first line. They didn't finish. They didn't finish listening to whatever you had to say.
I mean, maybe we'll get.
I need subtitles. Like when you're talking, I need subtitles to read.
No, maybe maybe if this progresses far enough, maybe. I do sometimes want to take the positive outlook.
Sure, let's look at the positive of social media.
So maybe we will start communicating a lot like we do in music with like chords. So music, you don't just pluck each individual string every single time.
Sure.
You hold a thing and then and a chord is like four.
And the chords, yeah, they overlap each other. Yeah.
So maybe we'll develop an efficiency in our language where instead of having a single word for every last little thing that we say, it'll just be like a word that might be like a chord, but like a whole complete thought. And so instead of like us having these conversations that take a long time, maybe I'll just be able to say like, "Fadizzle dazzle," and you'll
Shizzle.
have, right. You'll have received a lot more information,
Like 2 paragraph information. Hold on. Then look at the speech progression just in the last 200, 300 years. If you read anything from 200 years ago, like let's say George Washington, those guys sound like geniuses. Like the way they talked, the wisdom they talked with, the way they put their sentences together, like everything written from them. Every time I read it, I'm like, wow, this is really good.
It's like super cohesive.
Exactly. And that was more than 200 years ago. And now anything is like, it's all dumbed down. There's nothing like it. How are those people could be so wise with so little? And now we have everything. We have the information. Like you take your phone, everything.
Right.
You have
you
the world.
You want to know what my argument to it is?
Yeah.
I think it goes all the way back to that input of energy. And I've literally heard
Fascinating.
I've literally heard that when you grow your own vegetables, that the vegetables and you have so this is get your aluminum hat on. Anyways, have like this like symbiotic relationship. The plants will actually grow their fruit or vegetable, whatever, and try to build the nutrition within the plant to where you might be deficient. To where there's more
Interesting idea.
there's more
Yeah.
to it than just so like when you're talking about these forefathers writing, okay? We talked a little bit about this on our own. You look at their penmanship, and if you compare two letters from like George Washington or something, you might be able to look at it and realize that, today Mr. Washington was angry and today Mr. Washington was happy. You can't get that off of a text message. You can't get that off of Times New Roman.
Absolutely.
Okay.
From the text, yeah.
Right. So even though we are typing, there's a lot of our energy that has, like, that part of the work has already been done, meaning the font has already been created. So all you have to do now is key in the data. Right.
So yeah, like half the work has been done.
Right.
You.
So when you remove that out of stuff, I think this is what you get left with.
And perfect example. Instead of finding the piece of wood and cutting that piece of wood out, taking 2 weeks, now you just get a doll in a box where you just plug in the hands and the feet and the head, boom, and you're done.
Right, yeah, and the manufacturing is doing a lot of the work.
Well, where do we trade that work for?
Where?
Yeah, because that work needs to get done. It doesn't just come out of thin air. That energy to put that doll together, even if you have to put the arms and legs and the head together, that energy still had to be got and created, put it in the box.
Well, I think we're getting into
No, I'll tell you where. We're trading that in our office life.
Right.
Right?
Well, so I was going to say the same thing in a different way.
Okay, say it. Go for it.
I think this is the biggest argument if you want to like generalize and classify it, the Western approach versus like the Eastern approach, where Eastern medicine tries to treat the body as a whole, where Western medicine tries to break each individual piece apart and just treat the toenail, and then some other doctor treats the fingernail.
The ears, the eyes,
Right.
the teeth. No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so I think it boils down to this approach. It's almost like a philosophy. Before it ever became a practice, it was like, what do you think works better? Is it better for one person to be self-sufficient for every need that they have, right? Build your own home, grow your own food, raise your own kids, do all your own work and do it all for yourself? Or is it better to have somebody who just picks up trash so that you can go just do this, so you can go just do that, and you know, one might argue that the Western version is more efficient, but
Capitalism.
what you're losing in the efficiency, to me, it's like I I got a sound system, and I haven't had one in a long time. And I was listening to the music, and I realized it kind of snuck up on me that one of my problems was I'd been listening to this compressed music file stuff, right? And there's a huge difference in the richness of the music when the data files are not compressed and you're listening to it on a sound system that actually can reproduce all of these tones and notes. It's kind of got me actually wanting to go to a symphony, because when you go to a symphony, it's literally the actual music. It hasn't been broken down. It's not amplified by any electronics.
Well, not only that, like, because I know I kind of delved into the whole sound ideas. So it's not only that, it's how well the microphone picks up and what frequency it picks up. That's the first thing. Then how it was recorded and what was recorded, what frequencies were recorded. Mm-hmm. And then the third one is, how is your sound system actually playing? How the speakers working, and what frequencies can they actually replicate?
Right.
So who knows how much you're missing? There was a lot about like theaters and like how some theaters are so unique where they have those sounds on the speakers that produce those sounds that you never heard before, and then you go, you're like, it's like I watched this movie for the first time because the sound is so incredible. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I've never experienced that, but I mean, I know about it.
But I think ultimately that's what we're losing. And, we're kind of...
that's a good analogy.
We're compartmentalizing everything.
But doesn't this go back to our time is money is time? Because where we put that 8 hours, 9 hours in the office, and now we have those chunks of time that we earn, and we could, for daycare instead of raising the kids, we pay for daycare, right? Instead of another 2 hours of that chunk time, instead of growing those tomatoes, we buy the tomatoes, right? And then that time you spend in the office is miserable. And
plowing a field is miserable, in case anybody's ever not done it.
Yeah, I know. I would say, yeah. No, but I mean, is it more rewarding though? I mean, efficiency, sure, but we're not with technology, with the revolution of the combustion engine. We develop tractors, we don't have to plow fields.
Well, where this, where this goes back to, it's going to be the printing press.
Well, that's store of information.
Well, the rapid disbursement of information, the ability to store it.
Sure.
But you don't need to write anymore. You have stamps. Every letter is already preformed. Every letter is identical.
Okay.
You get this. It's the beginning of where we started losing. You didn't have to go work and
I see what you're saying.
Right.
Okay.
You didn't have to go work and research. You had stored information that was the exact same stored information, and
way more efficient than tablets.
Yes.
And pictures.
And writing. And writing. Old manuscripts had to be transferred.
I know. You had that, and then the guy that wrote it's all, that comma shouldn't be there. Yeah. I'm gonna just, I'm gonna skip the comma, or the two is a it now.
So, I don't know. I definitely see the effects that all this is
where
having.
It's going. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, just wait for Neuralink to come into. Then we're just like click and then this conversation, instead of taking 30 minutes, it would have took 30 seconds.
Even right. And then kind of what you're saying too, I think translates to a higher level too, where you're not just talking about an office, because I've worked most of my life previous to this in shops. And
well, I mean, office maybe is just the term I'm using, but it's where you go in a box, right? And you do whatever in that box.
And we're not even, when you talk about that, because that really started happening from Henry Ford. He brought the assembly line.
Well, assembly line's a little different then, but yeah, sure, I guess it's part of it, but that's very modern.
But if you look before Henry Ford,
Sure.
people who worked a lot more like what you're thinking, even like they were fishermen, right? Very few people could afford to own a fishing boat. So they would go to docks and they would sit there and wait for one of the fishermen to pick them. So they might be on this fishing boat today, might be on that fishing boat tomorrow. They didn't just keep going back
Sure.
to the same fishing boat over and over again. Henry Ford really modernized and made this thing where you go somewhere and you sit down and you do this thing over and over and over and over and over again. And
Well, he's I mean, I guess you could say he's probably the most famous person that created an assembly line. But hold on. Because let's say you were making dolls and I'm in charge of making this doll. I have to make the arms, the legs, the body, the head, and I got to put it all together, right? So I'm doing every piece. Now, what Henry Ford made popular, or I don't know if he invented it or made popular or, made it better. Now, instead of me making the doll, I'm just making the one leg. And boom, next
Right.
leg. And now the fisherman analogy, instead of the guys just, waiting for that, now he's just, his only job is to put on the hook. So he's just putting on hooks all day. I mean, I guess it made it more boring. I don't know where you're going with it.
well, there was more to it. It was the idea that what Henry Ford did, though, is he brought all the work inside. And I know, where's this going, right?
Okay.
So
I don't know if he did that, but I mean, sure.
Okay. Point being that, like what you said before, you don't know what you're missing till you've missed it, right? All this working inside, working in an office, working in a shop, working in a factory, right? You're all working inside. And there's a lot of things that that you're missing. So you're in these artificial lights all day, whether you're in a shop or in an assembly line, right? And the environment is not stimulating the way your environment would have had you been outside plowing the field. It's not just that
It's very numbing.
it's not just that growing your own tomato is more rewarding because you put the work into it. Your eyeballs were exposed to different photosynthesis. You got some vitamin D on your skin. Like there's like you touched the earth and
now
became
we're all just stuck in a box.
right. So you're not just losing the satisfaction of, doing something and being rewarded with the thing at the end. You're losing the grounding to the earth, the connection with the sun on your skin, and maybe it's cold today, so it sucked, and tomorrow it's warm, and so you like it. But you go to a shop and it's like the same temperature every day.
So it's, I would say it's almost like what we're doing right now is against human nature. Social media, or it's feeding into the most addictive portion of human nature.
It is
learning and something new and exciting, right? And then working in a box, even though it's very efficient to just keep stamping the same thing over and over, and like I'm making the doll's leg over and over and over again all day instead of making the whole doll. I mean, it's efficient. Again, I guess that's why we went that way. That's why let's use Henry Ford. He created a assembly line, and everybody's all, hey, that's very efficient. We could get things done 3 times faster. With the progression of this, as automation becomes more and more available, right? Now, instead of me making that leg, now there's a machine that's making most of the leg. Now I'm just putting it in. Now there's a machine just putting it in. And then in 50 years, I'm not even designing the doll anymore. I'm just saying, yeah, that's the one I want. And it just prints it out for me. So is this period right now just like a stopgap because we're going full automation, right?
I think we're headed that way.
Well, Wally, we're going to Wally.
No, I think so I think I think there's with anything. I think there's two ways this could go, right? And I think one way is we could blunder our way through the hard time and then hopefully learn from some of our mistakes. And on the other side, we'd come out well. Because, I've read lots of books when I was younger that talked about a possible version of the future is we don't have to work for food. We don't have to work for housing. We don't even have to work for our entertainment.
Yeah.
So now we're able to pursue the arts. We can dedicate our lives to learning how to paint, learning how to carve.
That would be fantastic.
Right. Just do whatever you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's all taken care of. Or like your
Wall-E.
the Wall-E where we're just like,
click,
now,
click. Yeah, that's right. They had all the screens. They didn't know they could. That's right. Because when the screens turn off, they bumped into each other. It's like, hey.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting because a while ago I was scrolling.
Nah, I don't believe it.
No, it's like shocks.
Yeah.
And it was actually a really cool little blip, and it was like, why Star Trek? Like you know what Star Trek is, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a fan.
You're a fan. Okay, great. It makes this easier. And it's like, why is there so much about this one little show that really isn't even that good of a show? And the argument was really great. I was fascinated by it. And he goes, it's the only show or, storyline that the human race, we didn't delve into chaos and destroy ourselves, right? It's not Terminator. It's not Matrix. It's like we actually figured it out. We figured it out. We got all of our bases covered and we figured it out, and then we were able to turn and
explore.
Oh,
that would be
right.
But that's you and me. That's the generation that just came with no social media into all social media, so we could understand that. Is the modern generation that's addicted and their brain doesn't work other than scroll? Are they going to be there? They're going to be the Star Trek people.
I don't know. I think it goes. I think we're waiting to find out. And we might actually live long enough to see it at the progression of things the way they're going, because it's like one of those things, you either I don't know, maybe it's too much information, but I don't drink.
Okay,
but I used to.
Okay.
So once upon a time, I drank, and it wasn't really working for me.
Okay.
And I could have, I guess, kept drinking, but I stopped and went a different route.
Well, because drinking it's not like, let's say, I'm going to say I used to walk a lot and walking didn't work for me, right? Why I say walking, because walking isn't harmful. Mm-hmm. Drinking is harmful. I would say social media is harmful, but at a different level, right? Drinking is like a physical harm. Like, it's an instant harm. Social media is a harm over years and years and years.
I mean,
like, who's going to come to that point when everybody's living in the idiocracy world? Because that's another utopian type world where everybody's it has electrolytes. They have no clue what's what, right? That's a perfect movie like example, is because they're so used to the social media. You remember the guy? You've seen Idiocracy. Okay, that's your homework. That's your homework after. Yeah, that's your homework for next week.
I was gonna go watch that, but then I scrolled for 3 hours.
You have to watch that.
Okay.
Get a copy of it. Do whatever you got to do. That's a must, especially for anybody having this conversation.
Okay.
A future technology, social media that is just. So there's a point where the guy's sitting on his couch, and there's garbage everywhere. He's not aware of anything. He's eating his big old chicken tub of whatever is in there, and he has a TV in front of him, and there's like 5 or 6 different shows going, and it's just the most silliest, most ridiculous thing, and he's just laughing, ha 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 ha, and then it's like some garbage breaks into his place, and he's not even aware of it. Like he's totally oblivious of it. So, anyways, watch it. It's a good one. It's a must. That's like it should be on the to-do list. Absolutely.
Well, I think you came up with one thing I meant to bring it up earlier, and you jogged my memory on it. One of the things that social media has that's just sort of that secret sauce is, and we talked a little bit about this on one of our last episodes, the lines, which line is bigger, and one guy is like the control guy and everybody else is part of the group, and everybody else is saying, no, that line is bigger, and the guy's like, no, that line is bigger. And he goes over and over and over, and eventually he just starts fitting in with the crowd. We have this like deep built-in, we want to fit in.
This is like the monkey experience with the banana, that all the monkeys beat up the banana.
That's a little different. That's a little different.
Okay.
Because then nobody knows why they're not getting the banana. Just they know don't go up there.
Yeah, but can they move that guy out of that environment, and then everybody won't even know why that line's longer?
I don't know. I mean, I know the thing about the fleas. No, the guy would know. You're right. So in the line scenario, you take him back out, and then you go, okay, now, so which line is longer? You go like,
Yeah.
But the point is that we want to fit in, and one of the things that social media has is that like button. And to me, this is actually something that I don't even understand. I don't like any videos. It's ridiculous. Like
I started to not too
Did
long
you?
ago.
Okay, yeah.
Because the only reason I started to is for the algorithm to show me more of that stuff. So if it's like a dog video I want more of that. Or it's a workout video I want more of that. So I would like the stuff that want.
But you know what you can do that's just as effective? Is you can save the video.
I do. Okay. Yeah.
But you don't have to like it.
Oh, okay.
Which is and it's weird because I just heard that YouTube is actually kind of correcting for likes now. So they're not, if a person watches a video for like an hour video, but they watch like 1 minute, that's like not a like. But they're adjusting the algorithm.
So if you like it anyways, you watched it under a minute, it's not gonna It's not gonna like give you that algorithm that's.
And if you watch like the whole video, then the algorithm's paying attention to that. It's like, okay, well, if you didn't like it, then, and you know, with the cameras, they're able to actually tell if you're watching too. The front-facing cameras on your phone, I don't know if they're doing it yet, but
yeah, I know.
Did you watch Black Mirror, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big fan.
Okay, so that one where they're all riding the bicycles and they're trapped in their little video.
That was one of my favorite ones.
Okay, right. You couldn't not look at the ad.
Yeah, exactly. And that I use that example all the time. That's kind of like that's The Office, where in that box riding that bicycle, and now you go back there and you can't not look at it.
I don't know. So what's the solution?
Black Mirror. There's no solution.
No. I mean, for all this Office stuff, I mean, because I think a lot of people.
I think it's a stopgap. At least it should be. Here's my example. So, with discovery of internal combustion engine,
Okay.
that revolutionized everything, right? It made everything that we have right now possible. The way we burn fuel and create energy, right? It made basically our current modern society possible, and it's only been the last less than 200 years. So, but we can't continue using fossil fuels. Every there's an engine everywhere. No, we can't do that. Why I say it's a stopgap, because it's a stopgap to accelerate us to the next level technology. Let's say fusion, right? Fusion and some sort of storage device that's in a small container that stores a lot of energy.
Right.
So this is just a stopgap for using fossil fuel. It's not fossil fuel. It's just, let's say, oil.
coal, whatever.
crude oil, coal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. That type of fuel is just a stopgap, just to it's like a launch to the next
Right. No, I
technology.
get what you're saying. It's like,
And the office work is the same thing. The box, us being in a box, is the same thing, I think, because we just discussed how more efficient everything's getting, right? Automation's getting. So, and the whole office box work, again, it's less than 200 years. It's very modern. Everybody being stuck in a little box, aka office. I think, again, that's a stopgap until we figure out the automation. And then energy's there, automation's there, and then either we have Star Trek, we have Wall-E, or we have Idiocracy.
no, and we have, and like total dystopian government control.
That's for a different time, because that includes AI and automation with AI. Yeah.
So the last thing before we wrap this up, because I know we're run out of time. One of the things that I find almost absurd regarding, especially these reels and shorts, is that when you're in that mode of just slip, zip, zip, is how receptive your mind is to that whatever that person is telling you is the truth. So a person might come on,
Interesting.
and they're just in their confident pose, and they're like, all you need is 30 minutes after waking up, 30 grams of protein followed by...
yes!
And you're like, dude, I have the answer.
Yeah.
And then you go out and it's like, wait.
Scroll next.
But I think it's amazing to me that a lot of people
Maybe
don't
that's
realize.
what it is. It's like, hey, I got something for you. Quick, I got to tell you quick. Listen. And our brain is more receptive. Oh my gosh, that's a very interesting
Right,
analogy.
because you don't even have time to put your defenses up. The message has already been delivered before. It's like a boxer, like they hit you before you ever.
What just happened?
Yeah, you're like,
yeah. Next.
And it's almost like sucker punching your brain over and over and over and over again. So
that's a very good thing to finish on.
All
Don't
right.
be a sucker.
You don't be a sucker.
Stop getting sucker punched. All right.
All right.
It was with that.